today we have a special guest with us, Daralynn Walker. She is an author and she has such great books. First, she has sent me some copies and I wanted to give her a nice interview. Look at the covers. Covers are beautiful. And so we have Madison Miles and Friends. And so it's like a series, correct, that she is developing. And so these are her first two books. And I know she has a third one that was recently released. And so we are here to talk about these two. And I'm so happy to have you here. So just kind of tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you get started? Where do these beautiful concepts come from? Like this is eye-catching to me, even as an adult. I know if I was around this age, I would really gravitate to this. So kind of tell me where this came from and how did you get started with this series?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for having me, first off. But yeah, so I am from Detroit, Michigan, and my mother was actually a librarian. So I grew up in the library. I read every children's book out there. And I'm sure you're familiar with like the Babysitter's Club and Boxcar Children and Hardy Boys and all those books. So I read all of those. And as I got older, I just realized that there wasn't really anything out there that focused on African American children. There was no series. So there may be a book that has one character that's Black, but we never really got to see inside of her world and how her life was. And so I was like, I love writing, and I had written books previously, but I really wanted to get into this specific age range because that's where our self-identity starts, when you're in like that first, second, third grade PR. And I wanted to write something that would help them develop well, reading wise, comprehension wise, and then something internally in them as well.
Yes. I agree with all of that. You're correct. At that age range, we are really a key foundation of who we are, the morals that we want to build, the values that we have, and also can have some strong friendships in that avenue as well, which you strongly focus on in the books about friendships and having going through conflict and how to handle things. Kind of tell me, like what did you want the reader to learn how the girls handle their conflict? What did you want them to take away with them?
Yeah, so for me, in regards to like conflict management and friendships, I struggled with friends at the elementary age. And I really wanted to kind of bring out some of those issues that that age range deals with. They deal with pride, so they deal with jealousy, they deal with envy, they deal with like all those things. So really being able to relate to someone at that age who may be moving from one state to another, and then they have to make friends all over again, or they have to deal with a bully, or they have to deal with a new friend coming into the circle and you feel like it's pulling another friend away. Those are all relatable issues that I feel like we probably have all dealt with at that age range. And so I just really wanted to shine a light on that and how they could positively walk through those situations in a better position.
Yeah, and you definitely did display that. I can definitely take that away. And heck, we can say even as adults, we can still struggle with friendships at time and using that positive communication and self-talk. So this can be a point example. If a parent is reading them with the kid, they can take away some key facts as well. So I thought that was very, very important, talking about the foundation of having that, how to develop the relationship in as well as communication. So as well as the conflicts in the school with the girls, you also talked about certain subjects that the girls were excellent at, such as Madison was really skilled with science, and we also have Olivia, who was really good at math. So why did you pick those subjects for these girls?
I thought it was so important to focus on STEM. STEM is a subject that we largely stay away from, especially the Black community. And so I wanted to shine a light on it in a positive way. When we think about science, sometimes we think about like frogs and dissection and stuff like that. And it's not all that, like chemistry is makeup. you know, how many of us girls love to play in makeup? When we talk about fractions and dividing, that's cooking and baking.
Yeah.
So we need to talk about pints and cups and all those types of things. So I really wanted to make it relatable so that they could understand why it was important. I remember being in 4th grade and 3rd grade and 2nd grade and wondering, like, why do I have to learn division? I'm never going to use this in regular life, you know. And as an adult, I understand the purpose of it was not necessarily to know why, you know, 100 needed to be divided into 5, but really to help you just be able to comprehend, you know, just think well and really be able to think through problems and be a problem solver. That you won't catch that until the end, of course, when you get older, but understanding how they can also relate to different jobs and careers, I think is also just as important.
Yes, yes. And I like how you just broke that down. So even the reader can take that away, and you have examples in the book as well of how it is used in everyday life. So I really kudos to you for having the science and the math, because like you said, the STEM, we don't have many of us in there, especially Black women. And so to make it be like, okay, this can be, you know, a career choice for us, and we can have these different avenues and really can dominate in these avenues as well. And you have them display it in the book, like Madison really good at spelling as well, and this off the top of her dome, just knowing it all. I really like that. And you know, like you said, having us in these books to see like ourselves and knowledgeable in different ways, because I am thinking about like when we were in elementary school, we had like the Watsons go to Birmingham. Like that's something that I remember. And like you said, it's really not many books, and like that book was mainly about, you know, slavery and how we are treated in the South. So that was more of a educational, or you know, to this know our history. But this is showing a different light, and I think that's so positive in this day and age, especially with everything that is going on in the Black community. To have this book to have a shine a bright light is really great. So speaking of that and moving forward, another author that reminded me so much of you when I was reading it is I don't know if you heard of this author, but Virginia D. Berry and Donna Grant. And so they work together. So Better Than I Know Myself was a great book about, they were about college age girls and the conflicts, the trauma, the things. So I see that in your books, and I was like, wow, like I wonder what is her plan? Like, what are you going to do next? What's to come for you with these books?
Absolutely. So I do have my Mackenzie book here, and it's available on Amazon. So it's Mackenzie Owens and the Great Big Oops. So that's my next book. And so I'm going to do probably 2 more. So one for Jaihan, which is the 4th character. And then also for Oliver, which is Olivia's twin brother. So that'll be like the first full collection. So the first 5. So those are Madison Miles and her friends. I do want to get into comics and also animation. So working on that, I would love to have a cartoon, you know, for the girls, because there are no cartoons, again, that really have all Black characters. I mean, you have Craig of the Creek, you know, you have the Proud Family, but for those 2, there are probably 50 that have all white characters or animals. So just really being able to add that to the world, I think is so important, because we need positive content. And like you said, when we were coming up, the books either focused on civil rights or slavery, if they were Black books. But we're so much more than that. You know, we have so much more to offer. And not only are these books just for Black girls, but they're also for people of other colors who don't have Black people around them. And it helps them say, like, oh, they deal with the same things. You know, if I am a 2nd grader in Idaho and I'm a little white girl, it doesn't mean that I'm not going to have the same issues as a little Black girl in Detroit in the same room.
Yes. Exactly. And speaking of Mackenzie, I know in Madison Miles, I believe, you talked about her being biracial, and she called Madison beforehand to give her a heads up to say, you know, my mom is white. So what did you think about that? You put that in there. What was your mindset about?
Well, her mom is Black and her dad is white.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. I did that on purpose because there aren't a lot of books that talk about biracial people.
Mhm.
And the ones that there are, most of the time the father is Black and the mom is white, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I think
Mhm.
that's a beautiful thing, but it's also the other way around too.
Yes. Yes.
And so I wanted it to just be addressed in the beginning, so that as we start to delve into Mackenzie's story, you'll start to see it unfold, and you'll see the differences in her family, because the goal is to really develop it where, you know, Mackenzie will have a line of books, Madison will have a line of books. So you have like this whole line of books that you can read just about that character, and really
Yeah.
get an idea of who their mom is, their dad is, what their pet is, their favorite. Like you can pull out all of that from all their stories.
Mhm.
And so I just thought it was important, and I thought it was something that could be addressed.
Yeah, yeah. And I liked you putting that in there, because a lot of times we can just think about black and white, but the biracials, they do have some issues, and they do have concerns with, you know, 1 minute am I too black or am I too white, and what am I doing? So I like the communication of that aspect, and I like Madison's response as well. You know, so it wasn't even an issue, and so I wanted to inform that into the discussion, because I think we do have a lot of readers who are biracial that deal with that even into adulthood, still struggling with their identity. So
Yeah.
that was a really important topic, and I can't wait to hear, you know, more about Mackenzie's story and to see what you bring up with that as well. Notice that you said like Olivia dealt with pride, and that she dealt with, you know, admitting certain vulnerability as aspects, and admitting certain things. So I know even as those, we can deal with pride. So what did you want the little people to know when they did read this? Or like, what did you want them to take away from?
That they're not alone. I think at that age, you don't know that it's pride. You don't
Mm-hmm.
know that it's jealousy. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you don't know. And so I think my goal was to make sure that they said, like, I felt that same feeling, you know, with my friend
Yeah.
last week. Like, okay, so I shouldn't feel bad for feeling that way, but this is how I can change that behavior.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think
Mm-hmm.
that's important. Sometimes I think even as women and as young girls, we carry shame and we carry our mistakes. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
I shouldn't feel this way. I shouldn't feel that way. And it's like, no, it's a natural feeling, but this is
Mm-hmm.
what you can do to make sure that you know that you don't deal with that, you know?
Yeah, yeah. And I agree. Even, you know, as a therapist, I focus on healthy relationships, and a key component of that is vulnerability. And I know we were talking before, Erin, but we can talk about it here, is the emphasis of therapy and having that safe space to learn, you know, that vulnerability and learn certain things. And the emphasis of talking to our parents, and our parents being available to have those discussions. But a key component is, as parents, to share and demonstrate that vulnerability to our kids. So, how do you think the impact would be, you know, even from your experience of having a parent to be vulnerable and teach you vulnerability?
I think it's so important to teach vulnerability, but I also think it's so important to be vulnerable.
Yes.
And I think that sometimes you can say, like, you need to be more vulnerable and you need to open up to me and this, that, and the other.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're not able to show it, like most of the times, I mean, even in marriages, you're married just like I am, you know, you may not necessarily know how to show that. So what
Mm-hmm.
does that look like? So it could look like a lot of different things.
It can. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I think being able to show it and convey it is so much more important. I think that's why it's so important that we write about these things. Um,
Yes.
they can see like how that plays out. For me,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I grew up in, even though my parents were amazing, I didn't grow up in I grew up in a single parent household, but my parents were amazing co-parents. So we never missed a beat.
Yeah.
But I still did not see what a husband was in a wife in a household,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
like
Yeah.
how she would cater to him or how he would cater to her, you know. So
Right.
I had to learn that, and I learned it, and that's fine, you know, but sometimes you need to see things.
Mm-hmm. We do. We do. It's several things that we can say, you know, growing up with the trauma. And a lot of people don't really know all what trauma is and how it can be impactful and like the layers that come with it. And so learning and seeing that vulnerability can help with that as well. And we can help debunk some of this trauma that we are carrying around. So yeah, I definitely agree with the seeing versus the saying, because we already know like actions do speak louder than words, and that can help our kids in numerous ways. So what is a comment that you would say for the parents? What are some questions or some insights you would say, parents, why should we buy this for your kids?
I think it's so important that children see themselves in the books that they read. And, I have school-age children, and I see the books that they bring home, and the books do not reflect Black boys. I have Black boys, and the teachers aren't doing it on purpose. It's part of their lesson plan, and that's what they do. But how can we supplement that to make sure that our children are learning, that they're learning how to comprehend, but they're also developing a positive self-identity? I don't know how it was for you growing up, but for me, I always had kinky hair. It was just always kinky. And I remember one day I was just so frustrated that my hair was not straight like the white girls in my class, but I think it's so important now, now there's so many books about loving your hair and being curly and beautiful. If I would have had those books, I would have had a different adolescence. In a way, and I just want our daughters to love every part of themselves, this next generation to not be afraid of who they are and not have to hide who they are naturally, and even on the inside, and know that we are more the same than we are different,
I agree. Yeah, I can identify with that upbringing, because when I was in 6th grade, I went from a predominantly Black school district to a white school district. And so it was a lot of different changes dealing with that and seeing like, okay, like they're shaped differently than me. Their hair is different than mine, and they look at me different. They ask me different questions. So it was a whole lot to go through. So yes, having these books would have helped. It would have helped that transition. It would have helped to still have that confidence in me, in my skin, versus what I'm seeing around me. So I agree with you. I wholeheartedly commend you on these books. They were really excellent books. I think they would be really discussion starters. My niece right now is 5, so she may be a little young, but we can still start talking about hair, and we can still show her the pictures and say like, she looks like you. Like, what do you think? So I encourage all parents to get this series, especially, you have comics, you have other series that are coming out, especially even parents with little boys. I think this would be really important to have in the household, to have those discussions and to talk about vulnerability and to see somebody that looks like you. So, any final words that you want to say?
I just want to say thank you again for having me. It's been an honor to be here and talk with you about these subjects. And yes, if you definitely want to go to my website, it's madisonmilesandfriends.com. You can also follow me on Instagram at Maddie Miles and Friends. And then my son, he got me on TikTok. So if you're on TikTok, you can go to Maddie Miles Lit.
Nice. Thank you for sharing that. I also will post that when I upload it on my YouTube channel, Healing with Sales. I have it in my bio, and also I will have it on my Instagram. So I'll be sure to tag you in it. So I thank you for having me here, and thank you for providing me with these books. Definitely will share it with my colleagues as well that do children's therapy, and also just friends and family, because I do think it is really highly good material to have. So thank you.
Well, it's so nice to meet you.
You too.
So tell me what you thought about the book.
I thought this was really great, like especially as you can see, like some of the questions I asked, like how the kids are showing that they can handle conflict and they're able to I say like hash things out themselves, like without adults. So it makes it feel like, okay, the kids are able to have this great communication, and then their adults are able to support them, but not force them into doing something. So from like a therapeutical standpoint, I was like, that's really good and important to have in books, especially in the age level that this is for. So these kids can develop that and say, and they would have conversations to go home and say like, hey mom, like, what do you think about that? Or like, they can maybe use this as like a example for how they can use that in their own life. So I really thought that was really great that you had that. And then also, some of the girls are, good at science and other ones is really good at math. I thought that was really excellent to have that because we already know, the STEM community is not really full with girls that look like us. So I thought that
Right.
was really great to have that input in there as well. So I definitely say kudos to you. I thought this was really important and I can't wait, ask the questions. I can't wait to see where this comes. Like, where are you going to go with this? So I was really excited that, and I even told my husband, I was like, you know what, this was a really good book. Like, even though I'm an adult, I was like, man, if little me had this, like,
It
the
would
kind
make
of
a difference.
the kind of avenues that I would have had, because we know, like, growing up, managing friendships is it can be tough, especially when our parents may not be as involved with their friendships, so we didn't really see them mingle with their friends, or like how they handle conflicts with their friends as well. So I
Mm-hmm.
thought this was really nice that you did that, and then also the responsibilities that they had. Like, they both had challenging transitions where one was moving to a new state and one was like tackling how to put her pride to the side and allow friends to show up and be your friend, as well as allowing your friends to help you with big tasks. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
so all of that was important. So
Yeah, and I think for me growing up, the whole communication issue with friends,
mm-hmm.
I didn't necessarily move, but I did change schools. And
Yeah.
so when you change schools at such a young age, you have to learn how to make friends all over again.
Mm-hmm.
You have to
Mm-hmm.
understand the culture of the people that are there. Like, it can be very complicated and very overwhelming.
Yeah.
And so I think I know as a child, I didn't discuss those issues with my parents because
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know how to communicate that,
Right. Right.
and
Same. Yeah.
I think that if I would have, like that could have been something, great. And to me, we don't have books because Black people don't go to therapy, or they're just
Yeah.
starting to go to therapy. But
Mm-hmm.
even children going to therapy and having those conversations with a
Yes.
therapist, or
Yeah.
even if one of the parents was a therapist,
Yeah.
and they
Mm-hmm.
came and they sat at their, they came to their job and sat down
Yeah.
on their,
Mm-hmm.
and had those conversations. I think that that's kind of where I want to go, because I think as a child, we hold so much in because we don't think anybody will understand,
Mm-hmm.
or be able to like answer those questions, because we think we're grown when we're
Yeah.
9 and 10 and we know
Yeah.
everything, but we don't. And you need to have somebody to
Exactly.
talk to.
Exactly. And also, we don't really have like the uh communication, like the capacity to even put the words together, because sometimes even as adults we're still trying to figure out, like, oh, if my body is tense in this area, then I'm probably anxious right now, or like, oh, like, if this is a continuous thing, then it's probably a trigger for me. Like, we're just now really getting those words down. So imagine, like he said, when we're 10, 12, or 11, like, we don't know how to piece that together. So I think now, this generation, we're trying to change that slowly. We're getting to advancement. So yeah, if you have like a book like that to bring that in, I think that would be really important as well, to make that emphasis be known. And then who knows, kids now may say, like, you know what, I think I may want a therapist, or like, this lady, somebody to just open and talk to. I think I may want that, to
Mm-hmm.
open that avenue up. So
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. So, well, we already got started. So, okay. So you're from Detroit, right?
I live in Georgia now.
Georgia. Okay.
I'm here, but yes, I consider myself a Detroit based author, so
Mm-hmm.